Welcome to Zero to Granny. This is the Beginner's Crochet course brought to you by Janie Crow. And we're really grateful that you've chosen to come and sit with us and hopefully learn to crochet. And we hope this sets you on your path to a lifelong love of crochet. For this course, you won't need too much kit. What I'm showing you here, we've got a ball of double knit yarn. You can have up to 4 colours for the granny square we're going to make, or 1 colour is absolutely fine also. You've got a 4mm crochet hook, some scissors and a darning needle, and I'm just going to talk about each of those things in turn. The yarn is double knit, and what double knit means is that's the weight of the yarn, or in actual fact the thickness of the yarn. And double knit is a very popular weight for blankets and garments in crochet, so it's a very readily available yarn. You'll be able to pick some of that up in charity shops, hobbycraft, or anywhere at all. So it's an inexpensive way to sort of start out to see if crochet is for you. The crochet hook, the one I've got here, is from Clover, and it is a soft touch crochet hook, or a soft handle crochet hook. It just means the purple bit that you can see here is silicone, and it is comfortable in the hand, but again, you know, if you are working with the traditional all metal hook, that's completely fine as well. And the size of the hook, 4mm, that relates to the circumference around the kind of the barrel here of the hook, and that is what is going to make the stitches the correct size to correspond to the weight of yarn we are using. So generally speaking, the thicker the yarn, the larger the crochet hook. The thinner the yarn, the smaller the crochet hook. That does vary from pattern to pattern, but your pattern will always tell you what size hook and what weight yarn to use. So for this course, we're going to be using a 4mm hook with a double knit yarn. I've also got a small pair of scissors here just to cut my ends when I get to the end of my rounds, and a darning needle to sew the ends in when I'm ready to do so. Now this one has actually got a bent tip. Those are the ones I like to work with, but you don't need to have that at all. It's just personal preference. A normal straight darning needle is completely fine. All you need to be sure of is that the eye is large enough to get that yarn through it. Okay, so a very small amount of kit to get you going to see whether crochet is for you. Okay, so let's have a little look at this hook then. If you haven't picked up a crochet hook before, not a problem at all. Like I said, the one that I have here has got a soft touch handle. If I turn it to the side, you'll see this part here is flat, and this is where it is kind of useful for me to put my thumb. It sits comfortably there. How you choose to hold your hook is a very personal thing. There's no right way, there's no wrong way, but if you're starting from absolute scratch, I might suggest you hold that hook as if you're holding a door handle to open it. Okay, so you can see it's kind of, I'm holding it as if it's a door handle. It gives me lots of movement. You don't need to be gripping it really, really tight. You can kind of just hold it with fingertips to maneuver it nice and lightly. So the size of the hook will be generally printed on it somewhere, on the handle somewhere. This is the 4mm hook. You'll see it's also got a letter. In the UK we tend to work with the measurements, and in the US we tend to work with a letter. So those two things are indicative of the size of the hook, and the size of the hook is relative to the circumference around the metal part here towards the end. Okay, so what we tend to use, what we are going to be using the hook for, the hook itself, as you can see, that is where we will scoop up the yarn. That is what's going to hold the yarn in place and pull it through the loops that will be on the hook to create our crochet stitches. We only work with one, and it's not like knitting needles. You don't need a pair, you just need one. Okay, so that is our hook, and the other vital component here is our yarn. And we've already mentioned that this is a double knit yarn. That relates to the weight of the yarn. You will find heavier yarns, and you will easily be able to find, and I'll put a link, easily be able to find charts to look at the weight of yarn and how that corresponds to the size of crochet hook. But generally speaking, your pattern, whatever pattern you're choosing to follow, will tell you that, and also when you look on the band of a ball of yarn, it will tell you there as well. So lots of places you can get information as to what size hook you need to work with what size yarn. So today we are working with 4mm hook and double knit yarn. Okay, so we're going to start our crochet, and most crochet will start like this, and that is with a slip knot. So if you haven't made a slip knot before, do not worry, this will be our first lesson. So I've got the end of yarn here, and this is referred to as the cut end or the tail of the yarn, and the end that is over here attached to the ball is referred to as the working yarn. So the tail end is here, the working end is sort of off camera attached to the ball. So I've got about 6 or 8 inches of tail here, and all I'm going to do is make a little loop. So the cut end or the tail goes over the top of the working end and creates this little loop, and I'm going to let that tail go behind the loop. And you can use your crochet hook to do this, but if we're absolute beginners, let's just use our fingers, and all I'm going to do is pinch that yarn through and pull. And when I pull, you'll see that the yarn catches on itself and creates this little knot, and this is our slip knot. And the reason it's called a slip knot is because it easily slips. When we pull if I sort of hold it up on the knot gently, when I pull the tail end, you can see it slips through. And if I pull it, it will slip undone completely. That's why it's a slip knot. So let's do it one more time. I'm going to make a little loop. My cut end goes over the top of the working yarn end and behind, and then I'm going to pinch it through and just gently pull so that the yarn catches on itself, and we've got our little knot there. Okay, now that knot is going to go over our hook. So the hook is going to come through, and what we need to do is tighten it, so because at the moment that's just going to fall off, isn't it? So all I'm going to do is just sort of hold my hook and my knot and just pull the tail end. It's a bit awkward, but I'm just showing you what happens. You'll be able to do this nice and easily. I'll pull the tail end and it tightens nicely onto the hook, and it can slide about, but it's not going to come flying off the end. It's nice and secure. So that's lesson 1. That is how we're going to start our crochet with this little slip knot. Now the next thing to conquer with crochet is making a chain. Now we work a lot with chains in crochet, and once you can conquer making a nice even chain, really you've conquered everything you need to be able to go on and learn all the stitches and crochet quite confidently. The reason for that is to make a nice and even chain, you're going to need to be able to manipulate or move your hook confidently, and you're also going to need to be able to tension this yarn. And what I mean by tension this yarn is make it taut enough that you can scoop it up with the hook and pull it through the loop that is already on the hook. If I try to do that now, it's all very floppy, there's no control, it's not easy to do that because the yarn isn't taut enough. It's just like sort of if you try to hang washing on a washing line without sort of making that taut, you can't do it, everything sags, doesn't it? So I'm going to show you the basics that you will need to make this yarn workable and to maneuver this hook such that you can pull the yarn through the whatever loop is sitting on the hook at the time. Right, to start with, I'm going to just use my forefinger here just to hold on to that little loop, so it's not going to, when I'm messing about down here sorting out my tension, it's not going to come flying off the end of our hook. So I'm just holding on to that for now, and I'm going to show you how I tension my yarn when I crochet. And I'm saying it as like that because there is, again, this is a personal thing to you. You will find a way that works really well for you, and it might be completely different to how I do it, and that's totally fine. There is absolutely no problem with that. There are no crochet police. You make it work how it works for you. And another thing I'm going to say at this point, if you've come to crochet from knitting, as many of us do, as both Jane and I did, you might be used to throwing your yarn. And if you throw your yarn, there is no reason at all that you can't continue to do that with crochet. It works just as well. And again, there's no crochet police. So I am going to show you that method towards the end of the video. So just hold on with that for now. Hold that thought. Okay, I've zoomed out a little bit so you can see how I tension my yarn. And what I'm going to do to start with, you will see that the yarn is coming off towards this side of the video here, and this is the one this is the working yarn that is attached to the ball. You can see the cut end is here, and we don't need to do anything with that, so that's just going to stay out the way. So how I do it, first of all, you can make some scissors with your non-dominant hand here and pretend to cut that yarn. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just snipping that yarn, or pretending to snip that yarn. I'm then going to flatten my hand out again so the palm is facing down towards the desk, and I'm going to pull the yarn all the way across the top of the rest of the fingers and underneath my hand. All right, so now at the moment the yarn is wrapped around those 3 fingers here, and I'm going to then bring it back through those snippy scissor fingers from behind. So come back through my snippy fingers, as you can see, from behind. Now what we've done, if I turn my palm, what we're now doing, turning the palm, is creating more tension. So if I go like this, I can't actually move that yarn too easily. So I've immediately got myself in a position where that yarn is looking more taut. Think of the washing line analogy, more able to hang something on because there's a little bit more tension in it. And that is what we really need to be able to pick up some of the yarn and pull it through the loop that is on the hook. Okay, so my fingers all have roles to play in this. All of them are going to be put to work, and let me show you how. First of all, these 2 fingers, my little finger and my ring finger, act as a brake. So when I put them down like so, I can pull quite firmly on this yarn and nothing at all is moving because these fingers are stopping that happening. If I let them up, and I can wiggle my fingers and pull more yarn out to let more yarn out, as you can see. So these 2 are the brake. Let me just get my tension, let me just get my yarn back as it should be again. I'll go through real quick. So snippy fingers, over the top, underneath, and back through snippy fingers again. Okay, you can obviously rewind and do that in slow-mo, that's not a problem. So these 2 guys here are the brake. This brings me on now to middle finger and thumb. And what middle finger and thumb are going to do, they're going to come up to this knot, or this, what is on our hook at the moment. At the moment it's just a knot, and they are going to pinch it. So if you can see, my middle finger and my thumb are pinching the knot very close to the hook, but not such that it can't move. It can move. As you can see, it's sliding quite easily, but it's not going anywhere because it is being guided or held in place by my pinching fingers here. So those 2, that is their role. My forefinger here, what happens here is if I bring it closer to the hook, it loosens my little washing line section. If I stretch it out, it makes it taut. Not quite guitar string, but you get the idea. It's taut there. When I let go, it is loose. So what I'm going to do is move my finger up. You don't have to really be pulling against it. You don't want any strain in your hand. You don't need to be really putting too much pressure on. Relax a little bit, but enough such as you've got a little bit of washing line tension there. So my whole hand is at work, making this yarn go into the position or into the tension I need it to, for me to be able to manipulate my hook and use it effectively. I'm going to pick it up and pass it through the loop that's there on the hook already. Okay.